it's not bad. It's actually pretty good. So good, in fact, that I'm not even going to talk about how good it is. That's why I'm doing a video talking about how good it is. Id Software have once again delivered in a time where video games were in the dark ages, not too dissimilar to this game's title. But it's not bad, really. Despite a lot of its movement mechanics being way more grounded than in the previous installments, Doom the Dark Ages creates a new way to get around quickly by using your shield to fly across the map, followed by bouncing around the arena effortlessly. Hugo Martin says you will feel like a tank in this game, while I say he's wrong. I say you're more like a pinball, minus the crazy pinball sound effects. In Doom the Dark Ages, we're introduced to some right proper chunk that the series has been needing more of. People have been talking about glitches and crashes. For me, I haven't experienced any crashes, but when I fell off the ledge, this happened. In terms of sound, I've got one word for you. Meaty. Followed by 138 others. This game feels fucking big, and the sound design heavily complements the strong movements of the Slayer and really creates an emphasis of the power his weapons and his arsenal have. When you jump, you can hear the ground shake around you as you land. Your guns don't simply fire rounds, they explode the bullets out of themselves as if their guns want to kill the things in front of you. The sounds of the crunching and the death are also really satisfying. You punch a dude and it feels as if you've punched them in real life, until you look at your bleeding hand and just realize that you punched your monitor and cut it in the process. That's how good the sound design is. Helping you out on this satisfying journey are your guns. The new weapons breathe more life into the franchise, but instead of just using the same weapons we're used to from the other games with visual changes, it completely reshapes pretty much all of them and adds weapons that I never thought could even exist. Like this one. This one's my favorite. The super shotgun is still double barreled, but it's somehow also a repeating shotgun. I don't know how that shit works, nor do I care because I think it looks cool. What's great as well is that although the game places an emphasis on the medieval aesthetic, it still leaves room for futuristic weapons to exist, such as this version of the plasma gun. Some of these weapons upgrades are cool. You can throw your shield into a guy and shoot him, causing the bullets to ricochet into all the other enemies. You can shoot the arms off a Mancubus, then completely ruin his day. However, despite this new diversification in weapon options, this game is still suffering a similar problem that the other two games have, but to a lesser extent. The game doesn't give you much of an incentive to use all the weapons, regardless of enemy types or situation. Across the board though, I do feel like I am using most of the weapons more than the previous games, but that isn't necessarily because of their utility, but more so to use them for the sake of using them. Like, why use the grenade launcher when I could use the rocket launcher? Then why use the rocket launcher if I could just do this? Because weapon switching isn't as viable as an option compared to Doom Eternal or even 2016 for that matter. I find myself using one weapon to kill 8 different enemies more often than not. The melee system in this game is definitely a shining beacon in the franchise. It goes from being kind of pointless in 2016 to then being a get out of jail free card in Doom Eternal, now to an actual option as if it were just another weapon to use. The chainsaw is gone, my friends, but instead you get your ammo the punching a dude in the face kind of way. Like you're forcing the demons to give you ammunition just so you could blast their shit to smithereens. The upgrades definitely improve the experience further, and the multiple melee options create different ways of playing the game. The shield not only adds a new element of traversal, but really allows you to take the cover with you and be combined along with your melee weapons in this new cool glory kill system. This does come at a price though. I felt the big enemies weren't as satisfying to kill with the melee option, since the new system made it feel a little underwhelming when all Doom Guy did was hit them with his shield or kick them in order to kill them. Glory kill animations are in the game, so I don't know why they didn't give them more of a chance to occur, but that's more of a nitpick if anything. A bit of a downside that Doom the Dark Ages does have that is unique to this title is that it feels way more automated compared to the other two games. The others do have moments where Doom Guy would lock onto enemies when you used your melee, like in Doom Eternal the blood punch would magnet you towards enemies you're looking at, but in this, whenever I use my melee or my shield, I'm suddenly glued onto a random enemy regardless of where I'm looking and kind of just button mashing my way through killing them. The parrying feature does feel a bit too generous, but that might be because of the settings I have set in the custom level modifiers. As cool as they are, battling those big fuckers as a giant robo guy and flying around the world on a big ass dragon, they feel too restrictive. As the mech, you kinda just walk in a straight line, admiring the destruction you're causing, then sometimes punching a big enemy with the same 2 buttons, then occasionally getting a giant chain gun that's only temporary. As the Dragon, granted there is more freedom in terms of where you fly around to, its restriction comes in the combat. You hold down right click and then you hold down left click while being sometimes locked to 4 directions, up, down, left and right. And then sometimes dodging a really easy to dodge projectile. And then you follow some ship that doesn't even attack you to your next location. These are really cool ideas, but I wanted more freedom on how to play around with these new game mechanics. I just hope that if they plan to use these again in later installments or even in the DLC, that they actually feel less like just a cool idea or fun gimmick, but rather a staple in the game's core mechanics. That being said though, I am glad that they don't take up too much of the game's pacing, being mostly tools to have fun and destroy stuff, or be an innovative means of transport around the map. If you couldn't tell already, the graphics are superb. Doom the Dark Ages combines both graphical elements of the previous games, leaning into the gritty and realistic textures of 2016, along with Doom Eternal's simplicity while also bringing its own sauce to the Source competition. The beautiful, dark and brooding atmosphere takes us out in the open into new locations that take the best graphical elements of Doom Eternal's DLC levels. The visual storytelling in Doom the Dark Ages is immaculate, making you feel as if you were part of the war instead of just some big angry guy that just wants to kill people. The demon designs as well are refreshing as well as familiar, changing what we know about how they function by transforming their demonic designs into a medieval aesthetic, making them look more like soldiers rather than demons. Now I really don't know about the story of Doom, but this game's cutscenes are some of the best I've seen. It transforms Doom familiar gory game where you kill hundreds of enemies gruesomely by turning its focus on the backstory, making it feel more like a movie, which, if you know me, that's basically combining two of my favourite things. Overall, Doom the Dark Ages is as solid as it gets. With the new custom game sliders, I can definitely see myself coming back time and time again to try something different each time. To relate this trilogy to movies, the Doom reboots are like the Dollars trilogy of video games. 2016 is the Fistful of Dollars, the first installment that is meant to work as a proof of concept to something that will ultimately be improved upon, but is still a great product. Doom Eternal is like for a few dollars more, because it's the improvement on the previous. It's more precise, satisfying. It is the perfect package of both look, feel, and sound, and is ultimately my favourite of the three. And Doom the Dark Ages is more like The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, as it is definitely the larger game. It focuses more on its story, still using elements of the first two, but leans into creating more of its own atmosphere. id Software managed to fulfill their intentions of Doom Guy feeling like a big motherfucker who's mean as fuck, and delivered on most, if not all, of what they sought to create to a satisfying degree, whilst also surprising me on what more they could do. Now id, listen. You've done the sci-fi horror Doom, you've done the horror action Doom, you've now done the fantasy Doom. For the next game, I would like Doom to be a western.